I've been playing PoE since 2012, on and off. At first, I mostly just did the short race events in the early days. I didn't have a ton of time to play and grind characters with in the base game. I did play some of the early leagues, and even before the game had leagues, I'd played. The competitive events were really fun, and still today they're definitely a thing. You have your gauntlets, and a couple years ago we had battle royales, which were fun. Even just like some random race events here and there were a lot of fun. I remember my very first character ever was like a dumb lightning strike sword, two-handed sword marauder, which is kind of funny because that's like a meta build as of this patch, which is kind of cool at the same time because even old skills from over a decade ago are still relevant builds. Honestly, this game, back to the main point, this game kind of shits on all other ARPGs today. Even in like 2012, 2013, I thought PoE was already a much better game than Diablo 3, for example, which was like, what was considered like, I guess, the best ARPG at the time when PoE was still really in an infantile state. One thing I think, not even just like ARPGs, but just like a lot of games, MMOs especially, fall into the trap of is just like this lazy, I call it the slider scale design. It's kind of like where you just formulate like more damage and defense and just like kind of numerical increases to everything, and nothing actually changes on a dynamic level. Example would be like Greater Rift 20 if you've ever played Diablo 3. Greater Rift 20 versus 40, or they're literally the exact same thing, except just they have more damage and HP, and maybe you get a percentage more loot. And they just keep scaling it up, scaling it up, scaling it up, so effectively, Greater Rift 20 is the exact same as Greater Rift 120 in Diablo 3, for example. There's just numerical difference, and that's it. This game doesn't fall into that trap because, tier 1 maps versus, say, like, the T17 maps are different. Bosses are different. T15 maps versus T8 maps, they're all distinct, and they kind of shuffle these around also per league, so it keeps it a little more fresh as well, but they don't even honestly need to do this if they didn't want to. It's already superior to, I think, everything else. Item levels, giving different affixes, influence gear dropping at certain points in the game, and there's like a reason why they drop, and there's use for them. Certain items dropping from certain bosses, and the bosses don't share the same loot. Like in a lot of other games, the hardest bosses, they all share the same loot. Uber Boss 1, 2, 3, 4, they all share the same exact item drops. That's not really the case in this game, so it gives each boss that kind of identity. Like Shaper drops his slam helmet, for example, and it looks cool, and that's iconic to him. And Uber Eater drops Nemus, and only he drops Nemus unless divination card or whatever. But kind of every boss has its own identity. It's really appreciated. It's really cool. Instead of just everything being clumped in together, these are the hardest bosses, and they all drop the same loot. That's boring and kind of lame. Div cards are different in each different map, and different farming strategies develop, and how people play the game is all different. And it's just not a binary game. And there's just tons and tons of different ways to play the game, and it's not like there's necessarily a right and wrong. Yeah, there are superior and worse strategies, and that's kind of like a lot of the fun in the game, is like trying to figure these out, and kind of min-maxing them and exploiting what you think is OP, and all that good stuff. It doesn't create a lazy, linear mindset when you're playing the game. You got to be more improvised, more open-minded, and ready to adapt better, and just kind of like take it all in. Instead of, hey, there's only one way to play this, there's only one right way to do things, and that's just not the case in this game. This video is sponsored by Boot.dev. Back-end web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. The smartest way to learn to code is to make sure you're never bored. Boot.dev is online, self-paced, and feels like a captivating RPG game. The platform is designed to get you writing a ton of code, because getting your hands on the keyboard and shipping projects is the only way to really learn. The Boot.dev Discord community is active and there to help if you ever get stuck on your coding challenges. At Boot.dev, they believe that learning to code is not a get-rich-quick scheme. They believe in going deep and taking time on the fundamentals so that you're truly prepared for a job in tech. If you've ever struggled, a powerful bear wizard that's been trained on each lesson can walk you through your issues. He is an AI that will ask you questions to help you understand rather than hand you the answers. Use my promo code ALKaiser. Thanks Boot.dev for sponsoring this video. There's just multiple solutions to pretty much any problem you run into in PoE, which is really nice because, you know, some other games, hey, there's only one right way to do something, or maybe there's two at most, but typically, I mean, there's multiple solutions to anything. You run into how to solve freeze mechanics, maybe you run purity of elements, maybe, you know, you use Brine King Pantheon, maybe use the fucking weirdo helmet, whatever it's called, or get your ailment avoidance all the way up to 100%, or, you know, whatever it be, or just, you know, freeze immune boots, stun, same thing, unwavering stance, whatever. Maybe it's Shaper Slam, just pump the Fizz DR on your character, maybe their endurance charges, or armor, or, you know, maybe you just convert that physical damage taken into a different elemental type. Maybe you just dodge the ability. There's just a lot of solutions to any problem you run into in this game, and that's like a lot of what makes this game really, really good. I think PoE captures the essence of what I like most in just RPG games in general. It's just like you kind of pick a character, you progress it, watch it grow, and, you know, you get a lot of satisfaction in playing the character and watching it progress and all that stuff. It's not a what I think is kind of a really downside to a lot of games. It's not an alt-centric game, kind of like Lost Ark. You're like way too incentivized to make a bunch of characters. I just don't like that. I just want to play my one guy. Same with MMOs. I just want to play my one guy and not feel like I'm at a disadvantage for just playing my one guy. I don't have to group. I don't feel like it's mandatory for me to get stuff done grouping, all that kind of stuff. Although there is a group, you know, kind of thing if you do like that in this game. That's totally up to you, but you don't feel like you're super punished for just playing solo. You can actually grind and just keep pumping up that single character, and, you know, you can go on its own little journey. You know, overcoming hard, challenging encounters, maybe it's like a Baldos or some boss or something when you aren't fully overgeared, can be very fun, satisfying. You know, maybe doing like your first like Uber Eater or something like that, or, you know, your first like fortress map really early, and maybe you get a yoke of suffering for your character. Stuff like that can be really fun. We do a lot of this kind of stuff in events where you're pushing content that's typically harder than what your character probably should be doing. It gets riskier and riskier, rippier, whatever. And the loot is really fun in this game in general. It's a lot better than all the other ARPGs, you know, farming currency and even just like crafting a single item, missing and winning versus layers of RNG, and just going through that whole crafting and finishing an item is like really satisfying and fun. There's, you know, and again, this comes back to that there's not just one way to craft an item or to acquire an item. There's always a lot of different paths you can go, and, you know, like, let's just say like some crazy ass gloves or something. There's a lot of different crazy ass gloves you can use on pretty much any build. There's not just like one solution. There's also not one solution to how you get to that item. It's like, the game's really well bought out, and it's not just like, hey, there's only one way to play the game, and I just keep going back on that because it's really important. It's really core in this game. But there's just not like one correct way to play the game. And, you know, like I said, just crafting one item can be really, really fun in the game. It's like a logic and math based game, kind of, in a lot of ways, which I like and appreciate. Kind of like PoB, Path of Building, is like a blessing and a curse, honestly. It's like really fun and satisfying to problem solve and figure out a character, a very powerful character, but at the same time it's like a curse because it's like at this point kind of mandatory to do that if you want to make a genuinely good build that's competitive against other good builds. There's simple consistencies in games such as like strength, armor, like block and fire are all related. Some people probably just don't even think about that. It's like, and then dex, evasion, suppression, and like cold are all related, bottom right side of the tree. You know, like lightning and int at the top side, stuff like that. It's like consistencies across the board that have been there since the very beginning of the game for the most part. You know, suppression just came in recently, but replaced dodge. But someone who played Magic the Gathering in like 1993, just like these kind of like themes and consistencies I like and appreciate a lot. It's like they don't abandon their core design philosophies, where we see a lot of games these days and they kind of abandon their like core themes and like what their initial like design intention is, and then you see them asking the community, what do you guys want us to do into the game, because they can't make their own decisions. It's like, this company is competent to think and do things for themselves. They don't have to ask the community. They don't mind community feedback and they definitely read it, but you know what I mean? It's like they're competent enough and confident enough in making what they want to make that they don't need to ask other people. It's just like, nobody really asked for Delve or Breach or Sanctum Leagues, for example. They just thought that stuff was cool to put in the game and they put it in. Watcher's Eyes or Cluster Jewels or Atlas passive tree. Nobody really asked for these things. They just like did it on their own, and people like a lot of it. You know, not all of them are a complete like smash hit that everybody loves, but in general, they like to take risks, and it works out really well for them. It keeps the game fresh. You know, it's a game that's like over a decade old. The game is like more popular than it's ever been. It's pretty crazy, honestly. And they're gonna make a PoE 2 soon, and you know, I'm not gonna talk too much about PoE 2 in this, but you know, I definitely look forward to it and the new stuff that they do in PoE 2. And that's another thing, you know, the new stuff that they want to do in leagues and the new stuff that the game evolves into, and I like that stuff. It's embrace the change, and you know, whatever new things they want to throw at us, so we try them and see if we like them, and if we don't like them, that's okay. But you know, I'd rather they take these risks, and you know, they experiment and they do things that they genuinely feel passionate to do, and that's awesome. It definitely makes the game. I feel like I'm actually playing a game. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just playing some homogenized, watered down action RPG or you know, whatever genre of game. Just another, you know, MMO where I'm picking 5 berries and then I kill 4 boars and then I take it to the quest log thing or whatever, the quest turn in, and then I go and I do a 5-man dungeon at level 20, and then, you know, when I hit max level, I group with 20 other people and we're doing some healer, tank, DPS boss thing. You know, it's like the game is unique enough that it has enough of its, you know, it has some similarities of other action RPGs for sure, but it's like it's unique enough that it does more than enough of its own things, and it continues to deliver on that. So not to ramble too much like an old man, but I've been playing games for like, I don't know, since the early Nintendo. You know, I've probably played like over 100 different Nintendo games, and just like tons and tons of Super Nintendo, PlayStation, early PC, DOS games, all these other games, right? I've been doing this a long time. It's just like, most games don't typically last at max, the good ones, for me, about 5 years, but this game has kept my attention for over a decade now. It's just like, it's held the test of time and seems to have a bright future still ahead of it, and that's awesome. And look forward to, you know, what comes next. So that's, you know, I don't want to ramble forever, so just kind of wrap it up. So if you want more of these bullshit videos, let me know in the comments, whatever. So PoE good, and most other games not as good.